Well, it's bad enough being shot at and hit at a public rally, but for Donald Trump, his two really safe spaces are Mar-a-Lago and the golf club, which is just down the road. And that's where he spends his time, surrounded by his family, by his friends, and where he relaxes and enjoys himself. But, of course, he was on the 5th, heading for a birdie, according to him, when rifle shots rang out, because somebody who for 12 hours had waited in the bushes was about 400 yards away on the 6th hole. And if the Secret Service had not spotted the guy with the rifle, Donald Trump would not be alive today. There was quite a tribute paid to him by his golfing partner on Fox News last night.
I got to see a man who was stoic, courageous, cared about his friends' safety and first before his own life. He was an inspiration to everybody who was around him yesterday.
Well, I must admit, I don't bother him much, but I picked up the phone last night and spoke to him, and he answered the phone first ring. I just wanted to find out how he was. He was putting, a strong, brave face on it and keen to talk about what was happening in Britain, etc. So I'm pleased that I did that. But, hey, this has to have a really very, very, very tough effect on him and for the next 50 days of this campaign and probably for the rest of his life. I'm pleased to say that somebody rather more important than me picked up the phone yesterday, Joe Biden. And you may say not before time, but Biden is now going to afford both Trump and Harris the same level of Secret Service coverage that the President of the USA has. Frankly, it should have been like this from the very start. And if that had been the case, the perimeters of the golf course would have been searched before they went out and played. But it does come down to rhetoric. Trump says it's the rhetoric that has caused this. And, Biden said it's time to put Trump in the bullseye. Other elected people from the Democratic Party have said he has to be eliminated. Now, look, there can be bad things said on both sides of the political debate. I'm not pretending it's all one way. But you do get the feeling sometimes, at least I do, Matthew, that kind of what is said about Trump does engender a certain kind of hatred.
Yeah, I don't think it means he should be shot at. I don't think he ultimately helps himself. I think there's rhetoric on both sides.
No, I accept that.
I think part of it is because he's a bit of a character. There's an element of caricature about him. Therefore, people feel they can maybe say things or do things about him that they may not say about Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. I think the thing that sort of sunk in for me yesterday, Donald Trump's one of those rare politicians that really does grind my gears at times, and I think, oh my God, most of the time I can let things go, but he really does. But I saw his son tweet, who also does the same to me, actually, but he said, sometimes more so, but he said, I'm sick of having to sit down my son, Donald Trump's grandchild, and explain that he's nearly been killed again this time, and there's it's happened more than twice now. And I think that's the human element. He's whatever people think of him, and there's many things that people can think of him. There's a human being there, and there's a family involved at the end of the day. And we've seen too much of it across the globe, really, and it puts people off going into politics as well.
Well, I must admit, during the campaign, first day, I had a milkshake chucked in my face. 2 days later, a cup filled with cement was thrown at me. And nothing like what Trump's gone through. But I must admit, for the next few days, I was thinking, how do I campaign? What do I do? What's going to happen next? It's got to be very tough in his head right at the moment, Richard, hasn't it?
I think very tough. Nigel, what concerns me, I'm talking about the leader of the free world, whoever the president's going to be, and politics in America. When I went across there twice with the Defence Committee, the Defence Committee we spoke to said that, in their view, and they agreed with us, that American politics has become so divisive. They are poles apart. Yeah. And until there's some coming together, not agreeing with each other necessarily, of course, but until there's some calming down, you've got really the extremes on both wings prepared to do very stupid things. And they've all got guns. And if they're incentivized to do something stupid, there are one or two lunatics who will.
The point about guns is well made. But one of the things that I did discuss on the phone with the 45th president was the fact that we're not immune from it here.
No.
And we have seen, take David Amos, the murder of David Amos that took place not very long ago.
And Jo Cox.
Jo Cox murdered. a few years.
And I'm sure Jacob, who's here now, he and I have had some very unpleasant stuff sent through our emails at the early hours of the morning, normally. Threats to, in one occasions, to kill. Some of our female colleagues have had threats of rape. And it's got, in the 14 years I was there, and I don't know if Jacob agrees, it's got far, far worse. The rhetoric is far, far worse.
Yeah, I think the Speaker is highly, highly acutely aware of this and says that it's absolutely top of his priority to make sure that the parliamentary estate is safe, but equally for elected members when they're off it, that they're safe. And they're making big efforts. But I'm sure for some of the new Labour MPs, I bet they're pretty shocked already.
Yeah, I think so. I've spoken to some of them even. I mean, some of them are shocked over the backlash to the winter fuel allowance, and they've gone, "Oh my God, the emails." I said, "Well, you've not seen nothing." I worked there through the Brexit era, which was, you know, a real, and you'll have had your own experiences, a real hard, emotionally driven, at times upsetting period of politics. And again, that was a very divisive referendum, which people had strong views on both sides. I think it just worries me for the talent that will be scared off. I go back to my old university and colleges a lot and do talks about what I've done in politics and stuff like that and what I do now. And you ask people, I've asked at the very beginning, how many of you, these are all studying political degrees, how many of you would like to go into politics? And out of a class of 50 or 60, you're getting 3. And I'm not saying you should, but if you extrapolate that across the country, it can't just be the North West.
Now, that would have been very different a decade ago, wouldn't it?
I think so.
Very different.
Because you can go and earn a load of money in the private sector without the front-facing stuff, without the abuse on social media, the death threats. And, you know, we've had it more recently. We had it with the Gaza vote. I was nearly walking the MP I was working for at the time home because I was worried, because of the way he voted, that he may get attacked on the way home. There's a lot of emotion in politics.
Well, Jake has been followed home.
No. I mean, it's no. Panel, thank you very much indeed for joining me this evening. And Jacob, it is becoming more of a problem. I mean, the fact that these appalling events are happening in America, there's no room for complacency here, is there?
Regrettably not. You know my views. I hate admitting this because I think when you complain, you give the blighters more publicity, and that it's better not to complain, just get on with it, and not give them the oxygen of publicity. But it is definitely a less pleasant atmosphere than it was. And I always thought one should just put up with it. I chose to go into public life. That was my choice.
Yeah.
I was pretty put out when my son, over the summer, got hate mail. And he's a 16-year-old. Yeah. I think sending hate mail to a 16-year-old is the lowest of the low. Yeah. And I think that's...
Yeah, I've always taken a similar view. I don't really mind what verbal abuse I get.
Yeah.
When it comes to things being thrown in my face, I take a slightly different view. But when it extends to the family, it really is beyond the pale.
I've been luckier than you on things straight. I once went to a Conservative dinner I was dressing, and I arrived there and all these people were patting me on the back, and I hate being patted on the back. I don't understand it. Unbeknownst to me, whilst I'd been going in, someone had thrown milk on me and they were wiping it off, so they've actually been quite kind. But I hadn't noticed.